Welcome to Binah Says, a podcast created to reveal the wisdom within everyone.
And most people say, "Oh, that ship has sailed." Like nothing has sailed. Anything is possible. You can't have big if you don't think big. The only limitations you have are the ones that you put on yourself. If you regret something that happened in the past, you're denying the process of making mistakes and learning from them. It was really through the spiritual practices that I learned in Kabbalah that opened more gates of blessings for me.
Shareef Malnik.
Yes.
You're the co-CEO and co-founder of Sonrisa Rum, one of the fastest growing brands of rum in the US. You're the Chairman Emeritus of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. You have your JD MBA from the University of Miami. Aside from that, you're an investor, mentor, advisor, entrepreneur, restaurateur, a philanthropist, a giver. You were an actor at some point. I think you raced boats or cars, one of the two. So there's nothing that you haven't done. And I know that there's so much more that you want to accomplish and you want to create. And the purpose of this podcast is to learn the wisdom you have received over your lifetime so that we can share it with the world. How does that sound?
Wow, overwhelming.
You are my mentor, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm very happy to mentor you. You're amazing.
I'm so blessed to have you in my life, truly.
We were meant to be very, very close friends and family, for sure.
Amen. We met in this very home.
We did.
This beautiful home that we're sitting in, this 100-year-old.
It's 101.
101-year-old home, my favorite home on planet Earth, which
Thank
I
you.
just told you.
My wife gets all the credit for the aesthetic. I get the credit for buying it and keeping it running, and keeping it like it's a new 101-year-old house.
That's true. So it feels like you've lived many lives in all that I said. I feel like your father has an interesting story as to how he came into this country.
Well, he was born here,
but
my grandparents came from the Ukraine in the 20s, and my father was born in St. Louis in 1933.
I know you're close with your father, and he's still with us, and he's quite a strong, healthy, thank God, fit man.
He's incredible. He's 92. I've learned so much from my dad. We speak every day. We're in business together. And he's my greatest mentor. It's quite fascinating. He's always the smartest guy in the room, even now. And he's usually the fittest guy in the room. So he trains twice a day, 7 days a week for the last 50 years.
Wow.
So he's a great role model. He's a father of 10 kids, 5 great-grandkids. I'm not sure how many grandkids, a lot. And he knows everything going on in everybody's life, and he cares.
Sounds like someone I know.
Oh, thank you.
What's the greatest lesson he's ever taught you?
Big lessons. Never write anyone off. Don't react. Wait. Be patient. And family first.
Those are beautiful. I love that. So you worked together in the hospitality industry for over 30 years.
Well, I worked with him when I was a kid, and then my dad started a restaurant in 1968, and I was peeling potatoes in the restaurant kitchen when I was 13. And then basically I took over the restaurant in 1990 and kind of did my own thing, but all my businesses are family businesses. And so we're all connected in some way. But I kind of did it my own way, and with nightclubs and bars and cigar club and live music venue. So yeah, but it's a young man's job. So I needed to find an exit strategy, which I did, fortunately, so I could do other things.
Mm-hmm. Will you tell me about the story of the Forge? Because I know it's a place that many people know about. My mom knew about it on Miami Beach. So what is the origin story of the Forge?
Well, my dad bought this. My dad, who's a lawyer, bought this. There were hardly any restaurants here in the 60s. The two oldest restaurants in Miami Beach are Joe Stone Crab, which is well over 100 years old, and the Forge, which is now like 70 years, nearly 70 years old. And so he wanted a place. He said there weren't enough good restaurants, so he wanted to open a place that had the food that he liked and wanted. And then he's a great antique and art collector, so it gave him an excuse to go and collect more stuff, which he's been doing since he's a kid, and create a look. And he's got a design bug, so it was really fun for him to design it, and it was a big hit. It opened. It was 1968, 69, and through the 70s and 80s. He would stop by there every night, and it wasn't his main source of income, but it certainly was a very successful restaurant and something that he loved to do. He was very passionate about that.
So it started as a passion project and it turned into something much more?
I think so, yeah. And then I had an opportunity, which I'm very grateful for. In 1990, I was living in London, and I came back to Miami Beach, and it looked like it was really happening. And he gave me this opportunity to take the restaurant into a newer direction, because it was a new era, which he's totally capable of doing anyway. But so it was a really generous and great opportunity for me.
I know that there's some big names that used to go there.
Yeah, I mean, I think during his tenure, um, all the big names were there, like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, and the Rat Pack, and then during my tenure, any celebrity that was in town would always come by the Forge.
Nice. Who were some of your favorites?
Well, I mean, they're all great. Okay, but whether it be like Billy Joel or Michael Douglas or all these great, amazing, Madonna, um, just everybody, just anybody that was in town, any musician would come by the Forge. I mean, it was really crazy.
Would you get starstruck?
Michael Jordan, every great basketball player, Um, yeah, like I remember when I was a kid, I was working there. It was probably in the summertime, and as a manager. And when the Eagles released their Hotel California album, they did their private dinner album release party to celebrate in one of our private rooms. And so they were ordering wines that were like $10,000 a bottle, and I was pouring it for them and drinking it with them as
What?
this teenager. Yeah, like great stories like that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's exciting. Hmm. So was your first job then working with your father?
It was. It was my first job, peeling potatoes.
And that led you into the hospitality.
No, I wasn't sure. I went to business school. I went to law school. I didn't end up taking the bar at that time, and I ended up leaving the country and doing some other things. And I got married, and my life went in a different direction. It wasn't until I came back where Miami Beach was percolating around 1990, and with the advent of South Beach being discovered, and it was very underground and very cool. And I was like, wow, I want to stay here. It's really happening, and he gave me this opportunity. So there was a point where in the early 90s where the line of cars went all the way back across the expressway, and then I'm like, wow, we're here. So it became a very, very important place to hundreds of thousands of people, like over the years. Like it was very, very powerful, the brand.
Wow. And then what did you do after that part of your career?
Well, while I was doing that, I also got involved in financial businesses and lending businesses. And because I just felt, you know, I wanted to grow and expand my horizon. And then, so, but I still had the restaurant going. So I'd be in my finance office during the day, and I'd go to the restaurant at night. And I was dating Gabrielle, and ultimately we got married. And I was like, but it seemed normal that I would just see her on Sundays, right? And so when I decided to close the restaurant, to renovate it, then I did a deal with David Grutman because I needed an exit strategy so I could free up my time And I moved my office to my house, and I was like, God, I hope my wife still likes me when she sees me every day, because we have a certain, ritual, and I'm always busy. And so it worked out really well. We actually like to be together. So, yeah,
You guys are such an amazing couple.
thank you.
It's so beautiful to see, your love for one another. Nothing you do is conventional. Everything is extraordinary. Everything is the best of the best. What motivates you in life to be this way?
Well, I just believe in my heart and in my core that there are no limits to what any of us can do. So if there are no limits to what I can accomplish, then I'm only going to think big, right? So I think that's really important. You can't have big if you don't think big, you know? Or if you think big thinking you're only going to get half as much, that's also not really thinking big. But the only limitations you have are the ones that you put on yourself. And so I want to think about the most of everything, I mean, why not ask for everything and you can receive everything? You got to do your part, which is your work, but everything is possible. I have certainty in that. So
This is a big concept in Kabbalah, talking about certainty and, the limitless potential that all of our souls have. Did you always have this belief inside of you, or was there a turning point in your life where you went from having more of a limited mindset to now a endless, limitless one?
well, it's not just thinking big. You have to live your life in a way that thinking big and going for big works. So I think I thought big most of my life, but it was really through the spiritual practices that I learned in Kabbalah that opened more gates of blessings for me.
How long have you been studying?
It's going to be, I think, 5.5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah,
It feels like longer, I'm sure.
it does, because it becomes who you are. So when you're a certain way, it's hard to believe you weren't always that way. So I always had the potential, and my soul has always been that way. But I had to go through different things in life in order to get here. So it's been a great journey. You know, all my mistakes were great because they led me here. So I wouldn't do anything differently.
What were some of those experiences you had where you once viewed them as a mistake, but now you see it as the greatest lesson?
Well, I think it's everything. You know, there are a couple of things when it comes to mistakes. Number one is a lot of mistakes you can go back in time and fix. Okay, because time is just it's an illusory concept. Okay, so I'll give you an example of going back in time. So I got busy, I fell in love, I left the country when I graduated law school, so I never took the Florida bar. I wasn't even sure I was going to practice law. I don't think I was, but I should have taken the bar, and I regretted it, right? And also I felt that, I felt like I let my dad down too. He paid for it. And the least I could have done was take the bar. It just seemed like a selfish move in retrospect. So it was during COVID. I'd been out of law school for 40 years. And I called the dean of the law school and I said, I have a crazy idea. Don't laugh at me. Really, I said that. Don't laugh at me. It's embarrassing. I was thinking, what would it look like about me taking the Florida bar now? She goes, Shareef, you could do anything. So I didn't commit yet. I wanted to dip my foot in it. I took a bar course at University of Miami. Professor Grossman, amazing guy. And but it was like, it was to his students, at Law. And it was on Zoom, but it was a little tiny piece of the bar, and I did well in it. And I mean, I'm always involved in the law, and I strategize or create the strategy for all my lawyers, But I was like, okay, I'm in, right? And that was a year and a half of studying. Had to, it was a lot of work. And 40% of the law school graduates that took the bar fail it the first time. And I was like, if I fail it, I'm doing it again.
Wow.
So I said, but I don't, it was one of the intellectually most challenging things I've ever done in my life. It's because I haven't been in law school for 40 years, right? So I had to learn an enormous amount of material and just to retain it and be able to use it. And, it was remarkable, but I was steadfast in my certainty that this was possible and always asking the light, if this is good for me, please help me do this. And I'll do good things with the law license. So I graduated, okay, 40 years later. I passed. I didn't graduate. I had already graduated law school. But I passed the bar. So I had a dinner here, and the state attorney, Kathy Fernandez-Rundle, swore me in at my house. She's a dear friend, our top law enforcement officer here, and I'm very supportive of her and love her. And I love her work. And my dad was at the table, and I said, Dad, I did this because I wanted to fix the big mistake that I made, and really the disrespect of not appreciating the fact that you even sent me to law school. So you can actually, the time it's not real. So the fact that, and most people say, "Oh, that ship has sailed." Like nothing has sailed. Anything is possible, right? And so I'm really happy that I did it, and I feel like I I fixed something that happened that was wrong 40 something years ago, and now I have no regrets.
Mm. That was one of my questions, and you beat me to it. If you have any regrets, but I love that your mentality is one of it's never too late to do anything, and there's no time like the present, right, to accomplish anything. And there are truly no limitations. We are our own limitations. That came to me when I thought I had this limitation of like being musical. I thought that ship had sailed in being able to express myself musically. And now here I am in my 20s, later 20s, tapping into that. So really, we are just able to do everything we set our mind to.
Yes, and we ask for help,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't feel that I can do anything. I
Mm-hmm.
can do anything with the help of the light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I'm 1% and the light is 99%, I have to give 100% of my 1%. So at some point, I was sitting at my desk for 14 straight hours a day, studying
Wow.
every day, right? Building up and building up and building up, and that's still the 1%. And I passed with high scores and had a big cushion, but that's because I got help from the other side, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really important thing to consider. You want to work hard and you want to earn what you get, and you need help.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, you have to ask for the help to get
Mm-hmm.
help.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I ask for help every day, all the time. People often say, how do you do all the things you do? I say, I do nothing. I'm doing nothing. It's all the creator. It's all the light. Because the minute we think that we are even doing anything, right, the light is like, well, you don't need me then.
Yeah, but you're doing 1%, like you are. That's big,
Mm-hmm.
right? But because you can't open up the door for the blessings without trying
Mm-hmm.
really hard and suffering. You mentioned regrets. Like a regret is something that happened in the past. So if you regret something that happened in the past, you're denying the process of making mistakes and learning from them. Right? So you'd be denying like how the universe works. The whole idea of making mistakes is to grow from them. If you're not challenged, if you didn't make any mistakes that you need to think about and you know and wonder about and make changes, there's no growth,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's really important to have no regrets for the things that many people do regret. That's like the mistakes and challenges that you had in the past. So it's really important. If you had an illness or whatever it is, um, it's there for you. You just have to try to figure out or ask, show me what am I supposed to learn from this? And if you can't figure it out, just trust that it's something that you learned that you could use.
I used to be afraid of failing. And I think like people that are able to accomplish, and reach heights in their career or personally, professionally, their view on failure is different than, the average person's view on failure, which is what we're talking about. So failure is then an opportunity to grow, right? It's a feedback from the universe as to where you might need to, pivot into a different direction. How do
Or
you?
maybe having certainty about failure that this is not, if you failed something, it's not failure. There's something to get out of that. So, like, I don't want to. When I was studying for the Florida bar, I said if I fail to pass the bar, I'm going to have to take it all over again. I'll probably do maybe another year and a half. I mean, it was all consuming. So I'm making it all consuming because I'm trying not to fail. So if I failed and I gave every single last drop of blood and sweat in my studying, I'm okay with that. And I'll take it again. But if I failed and I could have done one more thing and I didn't, then I'm going to be really mad at myself, right? Because I didn't do my part. So, it's like I don't want to fail. I'm going to overstudy, right? And let's see what happens. And then I accept any. But if I failed myself, then I'm going to be disappointed in me. If I give it 100% and I failed, then I realize, well, I'm supposed to for another reason. Maybe I didn't earn it. Maybe I'm supposed to learn humility. Maybe I'm supposed to see how do I deal with this and not be embarrassed in front of other people that I just studied for a year and a half and I didn't pass and now I have to take it again. Like you don't know what the lesson is. You can kind of sometimes figure it out though.
Is there anything you're afraid of now, or maybe something you recall you were afraid of that you no longer are afraid of now?
I don't have a lot of fear. One thing I do recognize is that any of us could fall. Any of us can fall off of the values and ethics and that we stand on and that we stand for. So I don't take those for granted. So when I see other people fall, I can have empathy because that could be me, and try not to judge them too. So I'm not. It's not that I'm afraid of falling. I know I can, and I want help not to. I don't want to fall off this spiritual ladder, meaning the lifestyle that I've chosen to lead, that I think attracts light. There's the higher you climb that ladder, the more challenged you're going to be, because to shake you off the ladder. So you have to be vigilant to make sure that you know you don't stray off of it somehow. It happens, and that's not the end of the world either. There's some great biblical stories of the most righteous of righteous making a bad move, and they pay for it, somehow. But that goes to what my dad's always taught me: don't write anybody off. Right? Anybody could change. Anyone can pivot. The worst person in the world that you would write off doesn't mean you have to hang out with them, but can change. And be the best person in the world. Um, so that would be the closest thing that I'm most concerned about. Is I don't want to somehow give in to temptation and fall. And it could be temptation. Somebody starts a fight with you, or and you go overboard, or you react in a way that's inappropriate. There's so many different ways to do it, or legally, like people are always doing some kind of thing and justifying it, and I will never say that it can't happen to me because I'll be faced with something that could happen to me. I know that it can, and I want to be really vigilant and careful about it.
That's beautiful. I think there's often a misconception that, we'll reach a certain point in life where we feel like we've made it and there's no more challenges. But really, the challenges only get more and more challenging, and our ability to overcome them is what allows us to keep experiencing the light and these blessings.
It's true. Our whole existence is based on challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So and you're supposed to have them, and you are growing from them, and you are tested by them, and your faith is tested by them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a big one.
So we're both now mentors in the Kabbalah 1 class in the design district, and I must say I'm only there because of you.
I know. Well, I remember when Richard Swerdlow was at a Chabad shul on a holiday, like 6 years ago, and I had this yearning for spirituality. So, like, the Chabad is right by my house. So I walked there and went to I think it was Rosh Hashanah, and Richard walked up to me and said. Then I realized the whole reason I bought this house was for that day.
Really?
And why the price was dropped, and oh yeah, no, it's very clear. Very, very clear. I wasn't going to buy this house because I owned another house, and my wife wanted to buy this house. I was like, we have to sell the other house. So, well, the seller just dropped the price by some ridiculous amount, and I bought it while I still owned the other house. Then I'm looking for spirituality, and I walk to shul, to the synagogue, and so Richard walks up to me and he says, "Hi, I don't know if you remember me. I dated your sister 25 years ago." And he hands me a Kabbalah Center Kabbalistic Bible. And then he sends me a link to Kabbalah 1. So I realized, like there's a master plan here. Mm-hmm. Okay, I got this house, I go there, next thing I know, Eitan's my teacher. And so the same thing with you. You came here, we started talking. I think we had a little spiritual talk in my office.
There was something. It was...
Right? This connection. And then you're in Costa Rica and somehow you're with Richard. And then you guys start talking about me. He goes, "What? You know Shareef?" And you sent a picture, and the rest is this. So we're all given messages and opportunities. It's about paying attention to them and start to realize if somebody comes into your life, instead of just shutting them off, just say, "Wait, why is this person here? Maybe there's something I'm supposed to be doing." So it's a great lesson, and we're just channels. Richard says, "I was just a channel for the light to come to you, Shareef." And so I was just a channel for the light to come to you.
Mm-hmm. That you are.
And now you're rocking it, in Kabbalah 1 as a mentor, and you're bringing the light to other people. And that's what it's incumbent upon us. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It feels really good to be able to share something that has changed my life and that has brought so many blessings and miracles to me and my family, and that I see changing the world.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So in that class that we were in just last week, we talked about this negative force that exists, which is called the opponent. And that was honestly the class for me that completely transformed, I think, my view on the world. Because I always had this voice in my head, but I didn't have a name for it. And I thought it was me. And it was this voice that was limiting my belief in myself. And that would prevent me from taking chances on myself and living a life of my dreams. What is that relationship you have with your opponent now, after having studied for as long as you have? And how do you view that relationship in general?
So you said something that's really interesting, and that is that, most people think that voice in their head is them. So then sometimes you're going to obey the voice because it's me, right? So the opponent never has a good idea for you. Once you know that the voice is the opponent, you can be like, "Oh, no," right? And it's okay. This is supposed to happen. So that's why we're on Earth, is to overcome that doubting voice of the opponent that never goes away, right? It's not like I want to get to a point where, if you're so righteous, one of the few most perfect righteous people, the opponent probably can't even try, right? But that's not most of us, right? So the opponents, I know that my opponent is with me for the rest of my life, right? Yeah, but at least I know that every idea that the opponent gives me is bad. Now, I'm still gonna have to go through listening to it, tempting me, it could be through business or a contract, constantly challenging me to break me away from the life I'm living, which is more oriented to the light than it is to the opponent, right? Um, so I've come to understand and accept the fact that it's there forever. So you're not going to get me, you know. And I talk to the opponent. You're not going to get me. Like, so give up. He's not going to, but he gets it. Like, you know what I mean. Like, so I move on, and then I don't stick to it because the opponent wants you. If you're meditating and you start thinking about other stuff, the opponent wants you to get upset with yourself. Then it wins, right? So it's like, okay, my mind's drifting. I ask for help and I get back on track and I let it go, right? So I think then it doesn't become, people talk about this chaos, and I don't have chaos. I have something that's trying to get me to it's like having a bad friend who's always giving you ideas that are bad, right? Because he wants you to be miserable like he is or she is, right? And so, okay, I recognize that friend's got problems, jealous of me, and is going to try to hurt me. So I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm just not going to do anything that that person says, right? It's kind of like that.
I agree. I agree. There's so much, like, as you mentioned, we become critical of ourselves and judgmental of ourselves. And then that externally reflects in us being critical of other people and judging other people. But when we recognize that this opponent, this negative voice, is there to test us, to give us the opportunity not to fall into this trap, and we're coming from a place of awareness and of love and not judgmental, like not from a place of being judgmental to ourselves, then that reflects into how we interact with everyone around us.
Exactly. But it's not binary. It's not like, okay, I'm coming from a place of love and non-reactivity. That's great, but sometimes you're gonna not have love. You're gonna get angry, and you're gonna react, right? So that doesn't mean that you're not great. It just means you still work. It's a work in progress. Like everything that we're doing in our life is a work in progress. You're not gonna get there until the end, anyway. Okay, but you can keep getting. So everybody, my wife recognizes, and the kids recognize a big difference in me from the time we met, 15 years ago to today. And she tells people that she credits the study of Kabbalah. She's a very, very spiritual person, and you've seen her in Kabbalah events and things like that. So my wife's a extremely sensitive and spiritual person, and appreciates my practice in a big way because her life is better because of it. Everybody's life is better.
How has that manifested in your relationship?
It's only helped our relationship to be closer. We were both two Aquarians, eight-type personalities that pretty much ran their show all their lives when they were younger. So now you put two people I'm with the person that is going to test me enough for me to grow. That's for sure, right? you know, like I kind of called all the shots in my life, and I had a big ego when I was younger.
There we go. That's what we want to hear.
I did. I had a big ego, and I had to give up, 50% of the power, right? Which was great. Best thing I ever did, and so did she. And so we were both made for each other. We also had the same exact same Hebrew birthday. We're 12 years apart, but we have the same Hebrew birthday.
Wow.
So we're pretty much a lot. We're pretty similar, and our stubbornness, when we met. So because we were sent to each other to fix those things or fail, but we decided that we weren't going to fail, that we were going to fix them, and we're still always working on it.
What's your favorite thing about Gabrielle?
I think her sensitivity, her artistic aesthetic, and her love that she has for her kids.
That's beautiful. So you went to temple, you learned about Kabbalah, you took a class online, and that's how you met your teacher, who you have today. Can you tell me the story of how that came to be? Because I know it's quite hilarious.
So, so my friend Richard, who gave me the Kabbalistic Bible while I was in Rosh Hashanah Chabad, told me read the footnotes when they're reading the Torah so you'll understand what the Torah really means. So I did that. Then I got in the mail. He sent me the 5 books of Moses, the Kabbalistic Bible.
Which you did for me.
Of course, I learned. That's what we do. And so I was like, oh, I think I'm supposed to read Torah. So I didn't even know there was parshas every week. Like I wasn't brought up reading Torah, even though I was brought up in a Jewish house and bar mitzvah, but more secular in our lifestyle. So I said, I guess I start on page 1 of Genesis. So I start reading, and then I don't know. Some months later, he says there's a great Kabbalah 1 class with this guy named Eitan Yardeni who's teaching it. He's amazing, and no pressure, but if you're interested, check it out. So he sends me the link. Right? This is all because I went to to the shul that day because I was yearning for spirituality, and he was sent there for me, which led us to be here together today, for sure. So I watch it, and I went, wow, this is what I think I've been searching for my entire life.
Wow.
That was class 1, Kabbalah 1. Like, this is amazing. Oh, this is what spirituality is. I couldn't really even identify it, you know? And so I go through the 10 classes, and so I call the Kabbalah Center in New York. I say, I'd like to meet my teacher. They go, who's your teacher? Eitan. Okay, so they're like, I didn't know how it worked. Because I said he's my teacher because I was one of like 1,000 people globally, or thousands, watching the class on Zoom, right? So they're like, well, he's not taking new students. I'm like, but I am his student. I just took Kabbalah 1 online, right?
This gets me every time.
Right? So they're like, okay, let me look into it, and time keeps going by, and then I keep calling and emailing, right? So like a squeaky wheel, right? And then like, hey, by the way, then I get somebody else to say, it's not taking new students. I'm like, I know, I'm not sure what that means, but I know. Well, I'm not asking anything from him. I just would like to meet him, and yes, it's a big organization. I get it, If I was there in New York and saw him, Eitan is the most open, you know, self-important person in the world, right? He's one of the most important people to me, but he's not important to himself like that. But all the people, they're not like, and who are you again? Like, they're also probably, so whatever. I get it. There's probably thousands of people call to try to do this. So finally, I get his assistant, and we're going to do a session, and we finally meet and have a long Zoom session, one-on-one. And he said that we had good chemistry, and let's do it again next time. And next thing I know, he says, I'm going to be your teacher. So we're going to talk regularly. And so now I'm so blessed to have him as truly my teacher, my mentor, and my brother and friend, and his family is, I consider, my family.
His family is incredible.
Yeah,
Which I only know through you. Again, no coincidence.
no, you're supposed to know that.
And now, I mean, with the episode that he came out with Madonna was absolutely incredible. And I think that that's going to change truly the world. I felt that day tectonic plates shifting, like in the world, and I felt a higher level of vibration in everyone's consciousness. Truly, I did from that episode. I know you watched it too.
Yeah, so I watched the podcast, which blew me away, and I've sent to so many people. It's over 2 hours long with Madonna and Eitan. And so now I want to dive into those master classes, which I haven't done yet. But the podcast is really very powerful and vulnerable and sensitive. It's really special.
So when you said you were yearning for something, your whole life, and you felt like this was it, were there other modalities that you had tried that just didn't feel right?
Yeah, I looked into everything really, with you know, looking at reading books on Buddhism. I was once married to an Arabian girl who was Muslim, and I went to Mecca and checked out Mecca and that whole. I was like, I need to. And then when I was back in, many years went by, I was no longer married to her, and I was sitting in Miami, and I was like, I haven't found my expression. So I go to shul. It was right in front of me all my life, was really through the Torah, and I didn't even realize that. Like I never connected to it on a spiritual level. I just went to Hebrew school and it was kind of like boring, and I was not a focused little kid, so it didn't have any meaning, any spiritual meaning for me. And it was so being there was my first step. In the Torah it says, if you open just the sides of the eye of a needle, the supernal gates will open for you. And I'm so glad I made that move, because I've been given so much beautiful guidance by making that step to go that day, which led us here today.
I want to hear about your journey with Make-A-Wish and becoming the Chairman Emeritus, and what that journey has been like for you. I imagine it's one of, again, shattering limitations. Anything is possible. You just had the gala this past weekend and raised $3 million. So tell me how that's been for you. What was your soul? Why were you called to do this work with Make-A-Wish?
Okay, well, yeah, everything happens from the Creator, but so I had gone to I'd gone to the first Make-A-Wish ball. I was invited by Lee Schrager, who was the chairman for the first 10 years. And it was his idea to start the ball. And it was great. It was still small. When I say small, it had a lot of people, but you know, everything has an evolution, right? So there was an opportunity for me at some point when I was asked to become chairman on their 11th year. So I've been chairman for 20 years. I saw, and also coming from hospitality and having my finger on the pulse of what was happening in South Florida in those days, I saw an opportunity to use that skill set of how you make your restaurant into one of the busiest places on earth, to making the gala the same way. And so I applied those principles, and simultaneously, I was very blessed because we're helping children with life-threatening illnesses. And so thank God we've managed over the last 20 years to really blow the ball up. And at some point I was chairman of the board of directors. I'm still chairman of the gala. And then we're looking at maybe building our own building or something. And so I got this vision that I wanted to transport our children to another universe in a Make-A-Wish house. We call it. It's a building, which resulted in 10 years later and $33 million later, it resulted in this unbelievable place that uses emerging technology and experiential architecture to transport our children to another universe. I hired Susan Bonds, a Disney Imagineer, to create a journey for the children that is like the greatest journey that Disney would create. It's a whole nother level. It's unbelievable.
It is. I've been there.
And now it's open, and we'll be granting wishes for many, many years after I'm gone, which I really like. But at the ball, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary, which means we raised, in those 30 years, going from nothing to something big, we've raised $50 million. We've granted 10,000 wishes. And if a wish impacts a minimum of 200 people for each wish, which it's usually more, but call it a minimum of 200, that means we've affected and impacted more than 2 million people in our community. And how often can you do something that impacts millions of people in such a positive way? So what a blessing. Like, it's unbelievable to be able to be part, and those are the things where, if you have the help of the light of the Creator and you think big, you go big. So I remember when the first time in the ball, I said, my goal is to hit $1 million, right? And they're like, yeah, right, You're lucky if you get to $500,000. I'm like, no, Mike, as soon as I hit $1 million, I was like, my goal is to hit $2 million.
Double it every time.
Oh, I don't double it every time, but or we'd be at like 17 million. But I always said, but I think the one day the ball could do 5. And the last 3 years prior to this year, we did 5. And then we did 3 again this year, which is huge. So, there is no limit. Now my thing is, I think we could do 10. So net, by the way, not raise 10, but net 10. So, that's the way it works.
I love that. I was there at the grand opening. It was an incredible moment. The whole community was there. The mayor was there. And it was such a blessing to be able to walk through and experience what those kids will experience and are experiencing. And it truly transports you.
Yeah.
Where there's no pain, there's no suffering, there is no death. Yeah. You are completely in a state of joy and peace and love.
Yeah. It's a great charity. It's a great energy, actually. It's really special.
What would you say your why is behind everything that you do?
I think of my consciousness behind everything I do has light. It's good. I'm not looking for treachery. I'm not looking to hurt anybody. So if you have a good spiritual consciousness in everything you do, it's not like I'm only spiritual when I'm praying. You know what I mean? Like, I think you apply those principles, those ethics, the things you stand for. You apply that consciousness to everything that you do, and I think that our rum company, my partner and I, who's my cousin Jay Goodman, it gives $1 back from the sale of every bottle to small business in Puerto Rico. So think of the farmer, the fisherman, the ice delivery person, not from the profits, but from the sale of every bottle. So these people never recovered from COVID or Hurricane Maria. They don't get the FEMA money. They get basically, they robbed and with all the corruption there. So we're going to give out millions of dollars in small grants to people whose lives will be changed, right? So yes, we want to make a lot of money, but at the same time, it's a business that has a soul, and we're giving back to the country where we resourced our luxury product. You don't see that very often, and nobody has done what we're doing in Puerto Rico before, to my knowledge. So I think that's a good consciousness, and the minute your consciousness changes, right, and your why changes, like from, wow, I want to do really good things, or I want to make a lot of money, and there's really great things I want to do with the money, when it changes into, look how great I am, look how smart I am. You know, I'm smarter than all these other people because I'm doing better. That's where you shift the outcome, right? Because you have changed your consciousness. This is a great story. You probably heard it, but guys looking around for a parking spot. Got a meeting. Please, God, give me a parking spot. I'm going to be late for the meeting, and it's like this meeting is the greatest opportunity for me in the world. He's driving. He's like, oh my God, it's only 3 more minutes. Please, God. So somebody pulls out. He goes, never mind, God, I found a space. Right? Right? Where all of a sudden, oh, everything's okay now. I don't need you, God. You know, like, thanks anyway. Right? I think that's genius.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
We take credit for things that really come from somewhere much greater.
So where's your consciousness? So if your question was, what's the why behind everything? It's a good consciousness is what I try to do, and try to have good intentions and a good consciousness behind everything that I do.
I love that. When I park personally, I say, God, show me where you want me to park, and let this take as long as you want this to take.
Wow, nice.
That is what I say.
You're another level.
You talked about your ethics or ethics in general. What are 3 top values by which you live your life?
Well, number 1 is not to lie. Just blanket, no lying.
That's a
Of
good
any kind, not little lies either, you know?
I agree. What we do in the small, what we do in anything, we do in everything.
Yeah, no, you can't lie. These are not in order, by the way, but okay, 3 things. So 1, 0 lying. 2, have gratitude for everything that you do, that happens to you, you know, to know that everything comes from the Creator. So gratitude. And 3, I think you're talking about the values, right? It's constantly maintaining my relationship to the Creator. That's like my highest value, which might be similar to number 2, but not exactly. A little slightly variant.
No, it varies.
Right? You know, to try to always maintain that relationship. You know, 4, just in case those 2 are too similar, is really love others as you love yourself. That's way up there, right? So whether it be my wife or the kids, or one of my kids, gets me, crazy or angry or does something, it's like you gotta just love the people the way you want to be loved.
I agree.
I think there's an expression, one great sage or Sadiq said, or maybe I'm not sure where it is, but
It's somewhere.
they asked somebody like, can you recite the Torah like standing on one leg? In other words, can you write? And he said, love others as you love yourself. If you know that, you know the whole. You don't even have to read the whole Torah. I wouldn't take it literally, by the way, but by not reading it, because there's still blessing in it.
Yeah.
But I think that's really powerful. It showed me a lot.
I agree. Okay, I have some rapid fire for you as we approach the end of this interview. Who's the most impressive person you've met?
The most impressive? I think, my dad.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. I had a feeling.
He's remarkable.
What is the greatest advice you've received?
The greatest advice I receive is, I mentioned it earlier, is never write anybody off.
What is something most people don't know about you?
Oh boy.
We could do a whole hour long, I think, about this.
No, I don't even know. Like, I'm pretty open. I used to be very private and very walled off and like, you know, and protecting myself, right? But now I'm much more open, like in this conversation. So I'll say one funny one that because my wife makes me do things like for the ball that I normally wouldn't do. So we just did a tap dance routine, like I was Fred Astaire. So most people don't know about me is I can actually dance now, but
We might need to see these moves.
what's that?
We might need to see
Yeah,
these moves. Is it on video?
yeah, we did a short film, and we trained not long enough with a tap dance and a instructor in a studio. We always do that for the Make-A-Wish Ball. We learn something new and then we perform it. Yeah. So I don't
Amazing.
know how to answer something.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
All right.
What is your favorite book, movie, and song?
Favorite song is Leonard Cohen, Hallelujah. Favorite movie that my wife is in, Scent of a Woman and Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. Great horse movie.
And book?
It's not really my favorite anymore. It used to be Eckhart Tolle. I actually really love The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It was great.
What about Atlas Shrugged?
That's on my, I've read it twice. It's sitting on my desk. A whole bent version of it. I actually really liked it, but quite frankly, and it was kind of my Bible until I found Kabbalah.
Okay.
So do I like it? I love it. It was great writing. Ayn Rand is amazing. But it's not my philosophy anymore. You know? Because the Ayn Rand that I loved, okay, when I had adopted her philosophy of Atlas Shrugged, was that you're under no obligation to give. You can give if you want to give, but you know, you're not. It's not like you're supposed to. And one thing I know now is that it's exactly why I'm here, is to give, and it's incumbent upon me to give. Right? Giving and sharing is why we were created. So I shifted away from Atlas Shrugged. So I can't say it's my favorite book anymore.
Wow.
It's great reading and it's fun and it's interesting and she's an interesting woman, Ayn Rand, but it's not my favorite book.
I like that lesson.
And Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, was one of my favorite books. And a lot of those things are very similar to my spiritual study now. But it's not exactly my philosophy or core anymore, so it's no longer my favorite book.
Yeah, nothing beats the Zohar. Okay.
Okay.
Next one. The most memorable place you've traveled to in the world.
Israel.
If you could solve one world problem, what would it be?
The lack of peace and love in the world.
If you could do one thing without failing, what would it be?
To be righteous.
Well, that concludes this here podcast episode with Shareef Malnik. We have hopefully gained some nuggets of wisdom, some nuggets of chokhmah and binah from Shareef. Thank you for being my mentor. Thank you for being one of the most giving people I know. And I love you very much.
I love you. Thank you for asking me to do this. It's really great. And you're really on an amazing path. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I love you.
Thanks for tuning in to Binah Says.
Hey, babe. Gabrielle. What's my favorite song by, what's that guy's name that I love? Leonard Cohen. I could say Hallelujah.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I think so too, right? Okay. Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen.
Okay, wait, let's start again.
Can you remind me, what's my favorite book? I read books so much. And I'm trying to think now, I don't even know what my favorite movie is anymore. I watch so many movies. By the thousands.
I know, that's
What is that?
Shawshank?
That's her favorite. I like it, but that's not my favorite.
It's a good movie. What about one that Gabrielle's in?
There's two favorite movies that she was in that I love. I saw the best ones, Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. I saw Scent of a Woman. I saw Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. I saw The Librarian. Hello. Unbelievable Disney movie, Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. You would love that movie.
I need to watch these. These are my next two films.
Yep.
All of that's going in the podcast somehow.